so good to see all of you. Thanks for joining. While we're waiting for everyone to join, like always, I still see quite a few folks flowing in. So before we start today's interview, I want to remind you of some of the higher impact takeaways from my last interview, which maybe you missed it, maybe you caught it but didn't get all the takeaways. It was with Jim Higgins. He's the founder of a 19-person Nashville injury firm focused on nursing home neglect cases. He leans heavily on referrals for those cases. So he talked about one takeaway: shop your firm. It has to be done if you want to improve your conversion rate, right? You've probably heard mystery call your firm. Your calls should be recorded, periodically monitored, and you should even ask friends and family to occasionally call and report what they heard. I would suspect that Jim is missing a sizable opportunity for improvement given his complaint about good prospects calling his firm but signing with others. Number 2 from Jim, look for opportunities to provide incentives. Intake is a prime area where bonuses can have a major impact, especially on new client flow. And this doesn't have to cost extra. One large injury firm I know found that the most popular and even the most effective intake incentive was actually just extra time off. Number 3, referrals require persistence. Growing a professional referral network, it takes time, it takes consistency, it takes perseverance, but can certainly pay long-term dividends. As Jim noted last week, once the first referral check is received, your new referral partner can be a productive source for years and years. Okay, let's turn to today's session, which is a good one. My interview is with a Boston injury lawyer who has doubled his clients and revenue each year for over 4 years. Impressive, right? Let's get to it. Welcome, Craig. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in. So to start, Craig, tell us a little bit about your story, your background, and a little bit about your journey as an attorney.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a partner at the law firm of Bennett and Belfort in Boston, Massachusetts. We're a 10 attorney firm, so we're a boutique, but we specialize in employment law representing individuals. So our focus has to do with discrimination, sexual harassment, wage and hour, whistleblower matters, things of that nature. That's sort of our bread and butter. And I've been practicing law for 13 years, all in the area of employment law. And my focus really is to just help people on a daily basis.
I love that. So are you responsible personally for bringing in your own cases and generating leads?
Yes, absolutely. So as a partner at the firm, we have things that we do, as a law firm, and then I do a lot of marketing and lead generation on my own. So, on the law firm side, we really focus on SEO, blogs, things of that nature, trying to bring people in to our website, et cetera. On the personal side, I do a lot of social media and really sort of what I call boots on the ground, which is I'm big into the coffees and the meals and the things of that nature, trying to develop business by meeting people.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to get into all that because you're doing a really good job on social media. And I know that word of mouth, that referral marketing is big for you as well. So I definitely want to unpack all of that. At about what percentage pace is your personal book of cases currently growing? What does that look like?
Yeah, so my active caseload is all business that I've generated. And, I've only been practicing for 13 years, so not all that long. The beautiful thing that I've seen over the last 4 or 5 years is each year my business in terms of revenues and originations is doubling.
Wow.
So I'm at that point where it's still, I'm still getting those numbers each year. It's going up and up. Obviously, that's going to stop doubling at a certain point. But really, when I look at 2023, I think in large part it increased because of all the social media stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah. So, that was sort of my next question, right? What is fueling that growth? Is it that organic social media? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, when I look at my numbers from 2023, having just finished that year, I think based upon TikTok alone, I would say revenues increased just from that by a couple $100,000 alone, right? So 2023 was a big year for me in terms of TikTok because I think I gained around 230,000 followers.
Wow.
In that 1 year period of time. And it has to do with changing my mindset as to how I approached posting. So I signed up for TikTok in December of 2021. So it's been about 2 years. But really that first year, I didn't get a ton of traction in large part because I don't think I was really approaching it correctly.
Hmm.
And what I've done over the last year is made posting really a part of my job, in the sense that it's a duty. It's every day, in addition to speaking with clients and drafting briefs and doing all kinds of things. Posting on TikTok is part of my day. That it's me personally. That's how I end each day.
So it looks like you have about 239,000 followers on TikTok, 2.3 million likes. You're also on Instagram. You are getting, it's obviously a sizable lead driver for you. Tell us about how those leads are coming through. Are they seeing your videos, commenting? Are they sending direct messages? Are they calling you? How are those actually coming through?
Yeah, so it's a variety of things. I mean, I probably average anywhere from 10 to 30 messages through TikTok in a day, right?
Wow.
People messaging me, asking questions, this and that. I find that the more serious clients tend to email me,
Mm.
right? They email me and say, I found you on TikTok. Here's a bit about my story. Um, Now, I'm fortunate in the sense that my law firm has a full-time intake coordinator. So when a lot of people contact me and I view them as serious, my first question is, all right, in what state do you live and work? Are you in Massachusetts? Because that's where I'm licensed to practice. Or are you somewhere else? That's kind of the threshold question. If they're in Massachusetts or their company is based in Massachusetts, then I can pass them on to my intake coordinator, who does the conflict check, does the intake, and then we set up sort of a 1 hour consultation and we're off and running. Now, the other piece of that, which is another, you know, generator of revenue, is referrals, right? I kind of saw in the last year that a lot of people are contacting me from other states
Sure.
that I'm not going to represent them personally because I'm not licensed in those states. But I've been able over the last 12 months to generate connections with employment law attorneys like me in other states that I can refer business to. And again, that's another stream of revenue.
Excellent. I've heard that from many of my past guests, right? It's so social media really, I mean, sure, you can speak directly to consumers. You can of course get the message out to those potential clients, but what a wonderful way of building that referral network. So you're receiving, you're referring clients out. Are you also receiving referrals from your social network?
Yeah, I certainly have been, but I'm giving out a lot more just because I think my content's been resonating with people, so I get inundated with messages all the time. So I've definitely been giving out a lot more than I've been receiving, but that's totally fine. That's kind of what I expect, given the fact that I'm posting every day.
Sure, sure. So how many quality leads or serious leads per month are you getting through TikTok? Would you
Yeah,
say?
so like I said, I probably get 10 to 30 per day. Of those, probably one or two would be serious for me in terms of something that I would handle.
Wow.
So probably one or two a day
Wow.
is what I would say. Now,
Not bad.
keep right in employment law, everyone thinks they have an employment issue. Not everybody does. So that intake process is key because it sort of weeds out some people that really don't have any claims. Also, what I do, because time is valuable, is I charge for my consultations.
Ah,
So
smart.
some people don't have the money to pay for that, so that also filters out some people.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm still, I would say probably one to two legitimate leads per day through TikTok.
How much are you charging for those consults?
So it's a 1 hour telephone consultation, and my hourly rate's $550.
Okay. I really like that charging for the consultations, especially when you're generating leads through a national platform like TikTok. It's a really, really great organic way to filter out those serious cases, right? Tell us about a little bit more about your start on social. You kind of said that you really shifted in this last year to not only making it part of your job, part of your routine, but has the content shifted? Or have you sort of, figured out what resonates and what doesn't?
Yeah. So really, over the last year, when my content has been hitting, so to speak, the feedback that I've been getting is that it's short, it's succinct, and it's providing some, one to two tips, right? I want every one of my posts to provide some value. And my goal is that in a 45 to 60-second snippet, an employee is going to walk away and say, hey, that's a valuable tip that he just provided. What I think was happening in the first year, where I wasn't getting as much traction, is in many cases I was almost too substantive,
Hmm.
right? I think some professionals, and in large part a lot of attorneys, they get on TikTok or Instagram or what have you, and they're describing or explaining these legal theories,
Hmm.
which is all good and well, but the average person may not understand that or doesn't really care,
Right.
right? So I often say to myself, am I being too substantive? Because I don't want that, right? I want to be able to just provide one or two tips in 45 seconds, and then people can move on with their day because they don't have 5 minutes to sit there and listen to me talk about some legal theory. It's just not going to happen. So to answer your question, that first year where I wasn't getting as much traction, I just think it was too substantive, and I didn't understand my audience as well.
What you're describing is probably the most common mistake that I see with attorneys on social, right? Is they're trying to kind of dive too deep when I mean, for you too, the employment law topics, I mean, those are really far more interesting than maybe personal injury topics. Or so I mean, I've had quite a few guests on the show. They're PI attorneys, they're criminal law attorneys, but they're actually talking in some cases about employment law topics, right? Because those are interesting to anyone, no matter if they're actively looking for an attorney at that exact moment, right? It's kind of that broader appeal. So I think that's a really, really smart approach, and it's obviously paying off for you. Tell us a little bit about the details. Are you shooting videos in batches? Are you actually shooting every single day? It looks like you're shooting just right on your smartphone. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in a real-time post.
Hmm.
And that works for my daily schedule, which I'll get into in a second. I'm also a believer in sort of not having a production team. I actually think, particularly with TikTok, viewers don't really want that, coordinated post. I think it's much more effective that I approach it much like I do with my consultations, right? So I spend probably 2 to 3 hours a day on the phone with clients, and we're just chatting. So I approach TikTok in a similar fashion, in the sense that, literally, to your point, I'm just holding up my phone, talking into it, because I want to sort of create that intimate one-on-one moment with the viewer and not have them think that I've got this huge production team filming everything.
Right, right. So you're handling all of it. It sounds like you're posting.
I'm handling all of it. I film. I don't even film any of it in the office. I always film everything from my house, and there's no third parties involved at all.
And often, lawyers will tell me, well, I want to be perfectly polished. I want to be buttoned up. I don't want those ums and ahs. It needs to be perfect. But to your point, often it's those genuine, authentic videos that actually outperform. I mean, the whole idea is to kind of get your prospective clients, your referral sources, to understand what it might be like working with you, right? Build that trust and have that more conversational tone. I think goes a long way, and you've clearly embraced that. Tell us about the daily the daily routine. How are you fitting in shooting every day, really?
Yeah. So like I said, I actually make it part of my workday. So I'm an early riser. So my daily routine is to get to the office really early. I'm super productive between, like 6:30 a.m. and lunchtime. I get a ton done. And then I try to leave the office around 3 o'clock. And, my office isn't too far from here. So I actually Uber to and from. And when I'm in the Uber on the way home, I'm thinking about my TikTok post for that day.
Hmm.
So my viewers that are, that watch me every day, they'll realize that I usually post between 4 and 5:30 p.m. every day. That's my consistent time, because I'll get home, I'll be thinking about my content, and then I'll sort of prepare for it, and then boom, it's there. Now, a lot of people say, how the heck do you come up with new content every day? Well, it's actually quite easy for me, because every day, I'm on the phone with new clients and new issues. So while I don't speak about people's actual issues, it's bringing up new things all the time. That's fresh content on a daily basis.
Yeah, kind of answering those common questions sometimes, huh? Can you think of particularly popular videos, a recent, more viral video that really resonated, and what that topic was?
Yeah, so there's anything that has to do with HR,
Hmm.
layoffs, and being terminated are sexy topics. I mean, I can pretty much, I could get off our chat today and I could discuss HR, and it's probably going to get a ton of traction,
Mhm.
because those are the areas that every single employee could be affected by, right? If you work for a company, you may not have HR, but you've got somebody who may do HR responsibilities. Everyone's at risk of being laid off, and everyone's at risk about being terminated. So it affects a huge audience. And a lot of people want some tips to, hey, if that happens to me, what should I do? So those three areas in particular always get a ton of traction.
Has your growth been purely organic or are you boosting any posts? Have you invested in any social ads?
Purely organic. No, I've spent $0 on boosting or ads or anything like that. It's only been through me holding up that phone and talking into it.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. I want to talk a little bit about referrals. You mentioned that you're getting referrals through social media, but you also said that you're big on sort of lunches, coffees, and staying in touch. How many referrals from other attorneys and professionals would you say you're getting per month?
Yeah, so what I'll say is probably the best quality referrals still come from my network of attorneys in Boston.
Hmm.
Those are the best. I'm part of a networking group here in the city, and I speak to, I do the lunches and coffees and things like that. So the best quality referrals are coming from those individuals because they know exactly what I do. They
Yep,
trust me, sending me their friends, etc.
yep.
In terms of volume, the most referrals are coming from TikTok.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but from those local attorneys, I mean, I probably get one really good referral a week,
Nice.
right?
Right.
And keep in mind with employment law, sometimes people just need you to review their severance agreement, or they
Sure.
have a question. So it's just going to be a 1 hour chat and then you're done. But in terms of a case moving forward, it's probably one solid case a week or so.
That's fabulous. How are you kind of building that local network outside of the networking group? Is that something that you've kind of systematized? Do you try to, take so many lunches, so many calls, so many referral meetings a week? Tell me about how you've been able to really build that network.
Yeah, so it's been 13 years of pounding the pavement because I recognized really early on that in order for me to build my business, I was going to need to network. And I never wanted to be one of these sort of back of the room attorneys who was just going to bill and not bring in their own business. So it's been 13 years of it, but it's a local networking organization that I'm a part of that I run. We meet once a month in the morning, and that's a fantastic resource for me. And then it's keeping warm with keeping the other referral sources warm by doing the dinners and the coffees and things like that. I try to stay in contact with those people relatively often, and the social media posts. Right? I mean, I had a partner way back when I was an associate who said, unless a referral source has thought of you within the last 24 to 48 hours, they're not going to refer you that business. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. So it's about staying top of mind, and through TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, I'm trying to post often so that people are going to naturally be thinking about me, you know.
Are you staying top of mind in any other ways? Are you sending emails? Are you sending gifts? Are you sending thank you cards?
Yeah, I think because our firm, we draft blogs, and we send out holiday gifts and cards and things of that nature. But really, I don't want to rely just on what my law firm's doing. I want to make sure that I'm top of mind all the time. So I'm pretty consistent with posting on LinkedIn, and just, referrals are great too, because when you're sending business to somebody, you're top of mind because they're thinking about you, and how they can, return the favor, so to speak.
Right, absolutely. What about referrals from past clients? Are you seeing those come through?
Yeah, a lot of referrals from past clients, a lot of referrals from attorneys that I've been up against in the past, which I
Hmm.
think are the most fantastic referrals.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, past clients, with employment law, when you represent individuals, hopefully they don't need you again, right? It's not like you're representing a company where they're going to have
Right.
monthly or yearly issues. But so I think it's a little less likely that happens in the employment law setting when you're representing people. But absolutely, I get phone calls saying, "Hey, you represented me 2 years ago. My spouse needs representation,
Yeah.
or my family member, or what have you." So definitely, I get a lot of that.
Do you do any newsletter or anything to stay in touch with those folks, the past clients?
No, we don't do newsletters. We primarily with the holiday cards and the gifts. That's the one touch point I think that when we stay in contact with them on a yearly basis. But um, for whatever reason, the newsletter has never resonated with me. That's not my style, so I don't do that.
Excuse me, I understand that. What about any other marketing? So it sounds like you're really like referrals and social media are your two sources. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about?
The SEO is critical, right? Our law firm, that's something that we focus on rather than just me. Our law firm puts a lot of time and energy into SEO, and we get a lot of traction from it. I mean, we have people emailing us on a daily basis through our website who found us through that. So that's the big one that all of us partners spend a lot of time on at my firm. And really the big initiative, which for me over the last year, which sprung out of social media, was I said to myself, I want to develop contacts in every major city across the US of people who do the same thing as me. So I started with a spreadsheet and I literally write out every state, and I've started contacting attorneys in every major city, because when somebody messages me on TikTok and says, "Hey, I have a discrimination case in Cincinnati, Ohio," I want to be able to refer them to somebody because that's lost business. So that's what I started doing over the last year, and now I'm at the point where I've connected with people in the major cities. I still have a lot of other cities to cover, but that's a lot of new lead generation for me.
I mean, that's so smart. And that's really the natural next step for you now that you do have this following, right? I mean, to actually monetize and to be able to, create that additional revenue stream through that network, that is so powerful. Be sure to let us know if you have any holes, because we have a lot of attorneys watching this, and I'm sure
Oh, that's a great idea. I have a
yeah.
lot of holes. I'd love to
Yeah.
touch base with you on that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So tell us about, I'm actually interested, Craig, are you using AI in your practice at all, either for marketing or for daily work?
No AI, and it's a very touchy topic, right? I'm sure you've read a lot about attorneys who've gotten in trouble with AI. So
Yep.
I've totally steered clear of that, even to the point where you know how it works with the SEO and drafting content for your website to capture as much of that as possible. Even with like the site map and all that kind of stuff, our firm's drafted everything from scratch. I mean, I can't tell you the number of hours we've spent drafting material, where a lot of people would, the natural tendency would be to use that, right? Would be
Right.
to use what have you, Chat GPT, et cetera. So we've totally steered clear of all that stuff.
Any other tools that you use that you would recommend for the firm, software or otherwise?
Unfortunately, there's nothing else for me to add there, because we're pretty straightforward when it comes to that.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
spend a ton of money on that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. What would you say, would you be willing to talk about maybe one of your biggest mistakes you've made as you grow, or what lessons have you learned as you're growing?
Yeah, I think the tendency, particularly with employment law, is to help everybody, right? So when I'm getting these 10 to 30 messages and they're like, hey, they're pulling at the heartstrings, right? I really need you. I've got this issue. I'm getting fired tomorrow. Initially, my thought process was, yeah, I want to help. I want to help all these people. And the problem is, as I mentioned earlier, everyone's got an employment issue. So literally, if I were to respond to all those messages, which I was initially, right, a year and a half ago, it's taking all this time, and yes, I may have been helping people, but it just was taking away from my work product, and the opportunity cost was so great that it was affecting the business. So in the last year, I've kind of had to say to myself, look, these 30 people that contact me today, I just can't help them, unfortunately. If they tell me where they live, I can refer them to somebody, or if they're in Massachusetts, I can try to help them myself. But basically, I've learned over the years that it's just, you can't help everybody that contacts you. You've got to pick and choose.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And I think, you can control that to a certain extent based on the content that you're putting out there, right? I think that does create some exclusivity in some ways. I mean, it's not a perfect process, but it is a way to sort of screen out, here's sort of who I can help, who I want to help, and maybe, here's some help, here's a referral, here's another path for you. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and I'm also trying to create, enough content where I can say to people, look, go to my post on October 15th where I discuss that a little bit.
right, exactly. So before we wrap up, Craig, I always like to ask, if a lawyer watching has time to adopt one, maybe two of your tips, what would you recommend?
I would certainly recommend jump in the water, right? I mean, attorneys have this tendency, as you articulated earlier, they want it to be perfect. My content's got to be perfect. People don't want that. People realize that we're human, and I don't think they want this perfect work product. So just get active, start posting, really specialize. I'm a big proponent of specializing in your area. And if you know what you're talking about and you start chatting, it's gonna start building itself. And if you're truly somebody that's seeking to build their practice, right? social media is a no-brainer, particularly with TikTok, because the virality of it, as you know, is, in my opinion, better than anything else. So if you want to build your revenue, then I would just get active. Don't wait for next quarter, what have you. Get involved, and you're going to start to see growth.
Excellent advice. Were you instantly comfortable in front of the camera? Were these videos naturally pretty easy for you, or did it take a little bit of time?
Yeah, I was always confident in front of the video, just given, I'm a trial lawyer, so that wasn't really an issue for me. It wasn't a comfort level. It was more, like, as I mentioned earlier, just making sure that it was resonating with the people, finding my style,
Right.
and then and realizing that, look, maybe one out of your first 30 posts are actually going to get traction. But as you've seen, right, it's the people that stick with it over time that are successful, and they don't get offended if one of their posts doesn't do anything when they think it's going to actually hit.
And don't take it down, right? Don't take that stuff down. It's, just keep posting and monitor the comments. Sometimes there's some gold in the comments and they'll kind of tell you what they want more of or what questions are asked, and you can kind of build on that. I've seen that you certainly do that. So great advice. Just start, just do it. Specialize when you can, build that revenue on TikTok. Excellent advice. I love it, Craig. Thanks so much. Lots of good stuff from Craig today, right? Here are the key takeaways that I see. One, employment law is a high interest social category. Everyone with a job from which they can be fired essentially has some interest in termination and HR topics. So employment topics have a large social audience. Craig is benefiting from that natural fit, but honestly, he's doing a lot of other things right as well. Number two, client questions are a wonderful source of video topics. Craig is smart to answer questions he commonly receives during the day. Why guess when prospects are actually telling you what they want to learn about? Number three, a disciplined approach to producing social videos like Craig's can pay big dividends. Recording and posting daily, as Craig does, is the frequency most likely to generate a large following. Ali Awad, the CEO lawyer who I've interviewed several times on the show in the past, he posts multiple times a day. But the task, it does not have to take a lot of time. Just talk to the camera like you do to prospective clients every day. Number four, referrals deliver the best cases, right? You know this. Despite Craig's massive TikTok following, bringing him 1 to 2 serious leads a day, he still receives the best leads from local attorney referrals. The screening that other lawyers do as second nature is the reason why. If referral sources understand your case acceptance standards, they won't send prospects who don't measure up. And lastly, number five, referral sources require cultivation. Building a referral network is only half the job. Those new relationships need to be nurtured. They need to be strengthened, right? Craig leans heavily on face-to-face meetings, which is great, but thank you cards, personal notes, tailored small gifts, all of those also work really well. The key is to be genuinely interested in the other person and helpful whenever you can. And remember, if you're short on time and want to help and you need help expanding and really cultivating your referral network, my team and I can certainly help. We're available to assist. We've scheduled more than 1,000 phone calls and Zoom meetings with lawyers, doctors, others interested in discussing referral partnerships, and we can certainly do the same for you. So contact me if you're interested. I'll drop my scheduler link in the chat now. All right, that should do it for today. I hope my interview with Craig has been helpful. Can't wait to see you next time. Until then, keep marketing. Bye-bye.